You know, one of my favorite things to do with my friends is just sit around and name old sports players, whether that's football, basketball, or hockey. And I find it so fun to talk about old Winnipeg Jets and bring up old Jets that, maybe didn't play here for a long time, but a lot of people do forget about. So today, we're going to go through 5 Winnipeg Jets who you might have forgotten about as well. All of these names can range from the 2011 Jets when they had just returned from Atlanta, all the way up to present day here in 2023. So without further ado, let's get on into this one. The first Jet we're going to talk about today was Antti Miettinen. He had 2 stints with the Jets during the 2011-2012 season where he played 45 games and the 2012-2013 season where he played 22. Antti Miettinen was a 7th round pick all the way back in the 2000 NHL entry draft. It took a little while for Antti Miettinen to break out in the NHL as he didn't make his NHL debut until the 2003-2004 season with the Dallas Stars where he had 1 goal, and then he wouldn't be back in the NHL until the 05-06 season where he would play 79 games with the Dallas Stars and record 31 points. Miettinen would also play for the Minnesota Wild starting in the 2008-2009 season where he would put up some of the best numbers of his career, 34, 44, 42, and 35, respectively in his 4 years as a Minnesota Wild. It would take all the way up to the 2011-2012 season where he would leave the KHL to play with the Winnipeg Jets, playing 45 games, scoring 5 goals and 8 assists for 13 points, and proved to be a pretty decent depth guy. However, he was never really able to replicate the success that he had with the Wild. He would come back to the Jets during the 2012-2013 season, where he would only rack up 5 points in 22 games. That would be the last NHL action that Antti Miettinen would ever see. However, he's a player that I think of all the time just because of the great nickname that he had, and it was Mittens. So, he was one of those players for the Jets that wasn't necessarily fantastic or anything, but definitely a decent depth guy that I think of from time to time. The next Jet that I'm going to talk about is one that's a little bit off the board. I don't think that anybody is going to really go, oh yeah, I remember that guy playing. And it's Kendall McArdle. I don't remember this guy really at all, but I see him on all those inaugural Jets pictures. He was actually one of the first trades that was made by the Winnipeg Jets before they had even played a game. He was traded from the Florida Panthers. The thing that I find craziest about this player is that he was a former first-round pick, 20th overall from the Florida Panthers, and it would take quite a while for him to make it into the NHL, and even when he did, his impact wasn't that large. For that reason, he was moved to Winnipeg for pretty much nothing, and he would go on to play the first 9 games of the year with the Winnipeg Jets, the first 9 games of their inaugural season in the 2011-2012 season. He would fail to record a point and just really wasn't a big part of that Jets team at all. He would be sent down to the St. John's Ice Caps of the AHL, and that would be the end of it after that season. Kendall would then be out of hockey, or at least professional hockey, by the end of the 2013-2014 season. Next up here, we've got one of the most random Winnipeg Jets ever, Alexei Ponikarovsky. I forget that this guy was a Jet all the time, and he wasn't, with the Jets long, but it is so funny to me that he actually was a part of the Winnipeg Jets at one point. Ponikarovsky was one of those guys that actually had a really good career and was in the league for a long time before joining Winnipeg, playing a really nice role with the Toronto Maple Leafs in their middle six for years. In the 08-09 season, he would record 61 points in 82 games, and that was by far the best year of his career. After his long stint with Toronto, he then went on to play for the Penguins, the Kings, the Hurricanes, the Devils, and even the KHL before joining the Jets in 2012-2013, where he recorded 12 games played and scored 2 goals. Those 2 goals, I don't remember at all. I do not remember Alexei Ponikarovsky in a Jets jersey. That year at the deadline, he was flipped to the New Jersey Devils, making a return there for a playoff push, and that would be the end of his stint in the NHL. He would play in the KHL for 5 more seasons, however, and retire in the 17-18 season. Next up here, we've got a Jet that really didn't play for the Jets for too long and was supposed to be a very good player in the NHL, but really just didn't pan out. His name is Marko Dano. Marko was a pretty highly touted prospect at one time with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he was thought to be, one of those players that could really blow up and be a big star for this team. Dano's career was off to an amazing start, heading over to the KHL, playing relatively well. Then he made his way to the AHL in the 13-14 season, where he played 10 games and scored 6 points. Then he would make his NHL debut with the Columbus Blue Jackets, notching 21 points in just 35 games. The following season, however, he would be moved to the Chicago Blackhawks, where he would play 13 games and notch just 2 points until being traded as a part of the Andrew Ladd trade to the Winnipeg Jets, where he would play 21 games and score 8 points that season. It seemed like the Jets had found a really nice depth player in Marko Dano. However, going forward, Dano would be very underwhelming and injuries would really plague his career. Dano would only go on to play 61 more games with Winnipeg and have 14 points in those 61 games. He would then go to the Colorado Avalanche, where he would actually go on waivers. The Jets would claim him back, and then he was actually with the Manitoba Moose for a little bit, where he was a productive player. He would then go on to go back to the Columbus Blue Jackets, where it would be an unsuccessful resurgence in his NHL career. And then, surprisingly enough, he would actually make his way back to the Manitoba Moose, where he actually almost played in a playoff game that season. That would mark the end of his NHL dream, and he would then go on to play in the Czech League, where he resides today. Now, the last Winnipeg Jet that we're going to talk today is a guy that never actually got to play for the Winnipeg Jets. His name is Bogdan Kiselevich. Bogdan was a guy that was never drafted in the NHL and was actually a Russian League player, just a KHL player for the longest time in his career, right up until the 2018-19 season, where he played 32 games with the Florida Panthers, notching 8 assists. He was then moved to the Winnipeg Jets for their playoff push during the 18-19 season for a 7th round pick and was just, picked up for depth, but we never actually got to see Bogdan play. He's one of those forgotten players that until recently I totally forgot about, obviously because he didn't play for the Jets, but I just think he's one of the more unique stories in the Winnipeg Jets past that never actually got to play with them, but was a part of the team. After that year, he would go back to the KHL where he resides, currently playing there today. Well, that's going to do it for the video, guys. Something a little bit different on the channel. This is something I might turn into a series if you guys like it, so definitely let me know down in the comments below if you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear from you guys, and if you want to see 5 more Winnipeg Jets, that maybe we forgot about. I've got a whole list of them, so definitely let me know down below. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are on the road to 1K. We are very, very close now, not too far away, so thank you all for the support over the past year. It's been a lot of fun. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.